Hello everyone, and welcome to the World Series of Board Gaming's YouTube channel, giving you the tips that you need to win your next game of Ark Nova. That's right, Ark Nova was one of the 2023 games, and it will be in the 2024 competition, ranked number 4 on Board Game Geek. It's an exceptional game, and man oh man was the competition fun. We had the designer of Ark Nova participating in the tournament, and he didn't make it to the final round. Sorry, Matthias. But not only that, we had 2 tables of Ark Nova happening. That's right, because we had our final game, a ring final, which was taken home by none other than Andrew Law, and Ark Nova was drawn as a semi-final games in our tournament where 4 players faced off in a really, really good game. Both of these games you can watch on YouTube right now. The semifinal game over on the Dice Towers Network, commentated by Tom Vassell and Matthias Viga, and the final game commentated by Andrew Law himself and our friend Sam over at No Wonders, both some of the top Ark Nova players in the world on Board Game Arena. So there's a lot of Ark Nova content to get you ready for 2024 or for just your next game of Ark Nova so you can really trounce your friends. And speaking of 2024, if you haven't gotten your ticket yet to the World Series of Board Gaming 2024, it's not too early. In fact, the time is right now because if you use the code EARLYBIRD, you can save $100 off of your stay and play ticket, which gets you 4 nights hotel stay on the Strip in Vegas and 4 entries, 4 chances to win that coveted championship ring, making your way into the grand finals to win that $25,000 prize. But if you also purchase before December 31st, you'll also be entered into our 3-star draw, where you can win a dinner out in Vegas, cold hard cash, or even your entire ticket reimbursed. It's a fantastic prize, and it is only available for those people who purchase before December 31st, 2023. So seriously, get yourself an early Christmas present, an early Black Friday deal, and come to this competition. You can compete with high-level players. You can have fun in the open gaming area run by Dice Tower West. You can compete in other various mini tournaments and national championships that are going on. It's a very fun event filled with friendly people. Seriously, get your tickets now because you're going to want to go. You're going to want to go next year. It's going to be a month away and you're going to say, okay, yeah, now I really want to go. No, get your tickets now. Save yourself the money. Get yourself a chance to win your entire entry and lock that decision in. And if you happen to draw Ark Nova in the finals, well, we've got some tips for you to up level your game. Now, Ark Nova is a tricky one to do a sort of quick 5-tip strategy guide on because there are a lot of cards. There's a lot of complexity, right? There's a lot of dependency upon what the board state is. But here's some things to consider and to have in the back of your mind when you're approaching your Ark Nova game. And tip number 1, this is something to take you from an intermediate to an advanced, or even from a beginner to an intermediate. The tip that supporting an initial conservation project is very important. You're going to see this a lot in high-level play. People rushing to get that first cube off their board and up to an initial conservation project. And so paying attention to those first conservation projects that are put down and that you have access to is really, really important. Because supporting an initial conservation project does a couple things. One, it gets a cube off of the side of your board, which for these purple things gives you a really strong income every time that there's a break, or a very powerful immediate bonus. This is a pretty huge deal. The earlier you get those things to benefit your income, the better off you're going to be, obviously. Number 2, and more importantly than even the income bonus, is that it will send you up that conservation track a couple points. And what's important is that when you get up even just a couple points on that green conservation track, you get a choice of upgrading your card or getting an additional worker. Both of these things are huge for the early game. The ability to start to streamline towards your overall plan, to be able to get that specific power on the reverse of a card is hugely important. And so if there's a small conservation project that you can get out in the first round, not only can you increase your income, get a boost, but you can also unlock that first card of what is potentially 4 upgraded cards throughout the game. helping you do better and better things down the line. But that's the reasoning behind that, supporting that conservation project, because all of the base conservation projects, as we can see looking through right here, all of the base conservation projects give you that 2 bonus. They're all broken down, but 2 is the minimum amount of points that you're going to be going up on that green track. And so each and every one of them will push you towards that first exciting decision space. So that's tip number 1. And that's why people say go for a conservation project early, because the benefits are just so, well, beneficial and will snowball you towards your victory, your inevitable victory. Tip number 2 has to deal with cards, and that is to not underestimate the value of snapping. Again, when I first started playing Ark Nova, and I was really getting into the game, the idea of wasting my level 5 card action to snap a card when I could draw 3 and discard 1, keeping 2 cards instead, was baffling to me. I said, I don't know why anybody would do this. I cannot see the value of snapping. But there's a reason why you can only snap something, taking something specific from the row of cards when you're at level 5. And the reason is that it's a good action. It's a good thing to do. That is your market of cards. That is the known variables that everybody around the table can work with. Those are the known variables of which you can see, and you can base your, not only your strategy, but learn what your opponent's strategy is going to be. You see them picking up primates. Are they going for a primate strategy? You see what tags they're picking up. Are they going to steal that university from you before you can access it? All of this gives you information, and it also provides you the opportunity to chain your deck together and curate your deck. There are so many cards in Ark Nova. There are so many cards, and there are so many cards with different varying effects, and you're not going to make your way through the whole deck. And so drawing blind may give you something great, but it may not as well. It's that idea of a bird in the hand being better than 2 in the bush, and that is amplified completely with the snapping action. There's also a reason when you flip the card over and you upgrade it to its final side, to its upgraded side, that you can snap on levels 3, 4, and 5. Don't be discouraged by only keeping 1 card and feeling like that is somehow a hindrance to your strategy, because it isn't. Especially since you can only keep 3 cards in between each round anyway, and you might end up with a mitt full of cards that you haven't played while somebody triggers a sneaky break, right? Having a curated plan is so much better than drawing and hoping that you get something. It is up to you to create the best plan with the market that you see, and then react and act on the fly and use your abilities for good measure. But in Ark Nova, more isn't better. A curated zoo is much better than a zoo overflowing with animals. And so talking about that, let's go back to another beautiful picture of Ark Nova, of course, just so we can see the board. Tip number 3 is still a general wash that you could probably say for many games, but don't worry, I'll throw in a little bonus tip so that we for sure get 5. But I want to really emphasize the idea that efficiency is key. And just like we talked about in Azul, when you're first learning the game, Ark Nova and Azul will go on for longer than you expect. They will go on for longer than is actually necessary. And they'll do that because people are finding their footing, etc. But when you get down to this sort of higher level play, and the solo mode actually is a fantastic way to practice for this and to realize the time pressure that's upon you, the end of the game will come quicker than you think. I know I was surprised to see how quickly some of these games of Ark Nova were playing, and at WSBG. And this is an environment where people are playing for higher stakes. They're thinking through their moves. But these games were lasting no more than 2 hours. And I know for a lot of people at home, their Ark Nova games last for a lot longer than that, especially when you're beginning, and especially when you're first learning the cards and learning how they all go together. But the end of the game is definitely controlled by the players and will be controlled by the people around the table. It is a race. It is a race to get your tokens to pass each other. What was so cool to see in our semifinal game was this aspect of the race, and the leader knowing that he was ahead and trying desperately to get those 2 tokens to cross each other before his opponent's engines, which were really ramping up and getting bigger and bigger, could catch up to him. Because that's the worry, right? If you don't end the game quickly enough, your opponents who have been taking longer times to build up their engines will probably have a more robust engine than you and will be able to net those extra points in those sort of last moves. And so realizing that efficiency, controlling when the break happens, controlling and maneuvering yourself so that you don't trigger the break, but knowing that your opponent might trigger that final break to give you a little boost of income to spur your way to the end of the game. This timing and efficiency really matters, and it's very important when you get to the late game to be aware of what everybody else is doing and how you can push that tempo so that it works for you and not for somebody else. That's just something to consider, but really it bears repeating that if you are playing this game correctly and at a level where you can be really competitive, you are the one controlling the tempo of the game. If you can control the tempo of the game and make everybody else rush to catch up to you, then you're putting yourself in a very good position to win. You can't depend upon huge incomes later on in the game where you're getting 40 to 50 coins, because the game probably won't last that long with players who are more adept at being efficient. Tip number 4 is don't get tunnel vision, especially on your opening personal objective cards. As you know, everybody's dealt 2 of these at the beginning of the game, and you can get yourself 1 to 4 points depending upon which cards you have and how well you accomplish those goals. And 4 points is significant. It is a lot. However, I think a trap that a lot of people fall into is giving too much weight to these cards. It's great to be able to focus on them and to be able to achieve them down the line. And if you have to choose between 2 different things, and one helps you achieve that goal and one doesn't, that seems like a pretty easy choice. But especially with your opening hand, the choice of your opening hand is pretty significant because you've got a large amount of cards to choose from. You have 8 cards and you get to keep 4 of them. And the amount of combos that you get in there could synergize so much more effectively in pursuing that early conservation project. What is really nice about these scoring cards is a lot of them will be things that you want to do already, such as moving your reputation up on the track, getting sponsorship cards. Rock and water icons tend to be more efficient anyway in terms of a cost per card ratio. These might be things that you already want to do, but if I see, okay, I've got the climbing park, for example, I've got these cards with rock icons in their hands, 2 of them that are late game cards. They need a lot of requirements to complete, and I'm choosing to hold on to those 2 cards instead of holding on to the 2 smaller bird cards that I was given when there's a bird conservation project up and already active. This sort of tunnel vision, it should be obvious to not worry about, but the priority here doesn't need to be solely on these cards. You get 2 for a reason. You don't have to make that decision quite yet, and focusing your entire strategy upon something that can happen late game or something that you can build throughout the game to the detriment of your own combos isn't the best thing to do. Here's your bonus tip. Bonus tip 4.5. I was going to say don't just focus on appeal on your cards. Focusing on the conservation points on your cards is also pretty decent because it helps you hit those bonuses that are pretty powerful, and getting your choice at the bonuses is better than just getting $5 down the road, although sometimes you may just want the $5. But I think my bonus tip here is, again, talking about value, not underestimating the value of X tokens. The X tokens that let you boost the actions of your cards, boost the power of your cards. Because efficiency is key, and because efficiency is so locked in, taking a suboptimal move just to push your other cards forward 1 space sometimes isn't the best thing to do. Your action efficiency is so key here. That is why the X tokens really do matter, because they can help you achieve those things sooner. I'm the type of player, when I play, I'm the sort of video game player who hoards all of my potions until the very end boss, and then I say, oh, I should have used these potions instead of running back to town and healing myself over and over. And I think the same sort of thing applies here. When you have the X tokens, use them for that action efficiency. If you ever feel yourself in that mindset of, this feels a bit suboptimal, I wish I could play this round, this thing right now, that's when you use your X token. That's when you save your X tokens for those moments where you think, do I really need to do this right now? I wish my cards were in a little bit of a different order. And that'll stop you from wasting your turns. Sometimes it might even make sense. Move a card down to number 1 and take an X token, which feels like the most inefficient move, but if it sets you up down the line for future efficiency, sometimes it can pan out. It's not the best thing to be forced to do, but sometimes you can do it. I just thought of another one. There's so many things. There's so many things that I want to say, but I also want to keep this video short and sweet. But another trap that I feel like new players fall into, and even intermediate players sometimes, is worrying about that efficiency. It kind of falls in the same vein, right? If you have a building at level 5, and it's gotten all the way up to level 5, but you only need a level 2 building, just build the level 2 building. Just bite the bullet, do it, move it down, it'll go back up. Right? You need the level 2 building. That's going for your strategy. You need to be able to build and put that animal into your zoo. But I think so many times players often worry about losing that efficiency and not using it in the way that best suits them and their current game plan. Ark Nova is all about you. There's a reason why the solo game is so good, because it's all about efficiency. Efficiency is the key word that I'm going to be repeating. So don't feel like you have to do the level 5 action in terms of building or association. Sometimes it does make a lot more sense to take the action that you want instead of the action that you've built up to. And hopefully next time it'll happen in the right spot so that you don't feel the pressure of building a 5 enclosure and spending $10 when really all you need is $4. And the final point, the final tip that I want to talk about here is something that I learned watching the awesome coverage and commentary by No Wonders, commentated by the top Ark Nova players on Board Game Arena, and that's, don't be worried about taking unconventional strategies. It was a wild game to watch, and I highly encourage you go over there and watch it, because the winner kind of threw a lot of strategies out the window. There's some additional great stats breakdown over on No Wonders as well in terms of Ark Nova. That's why we wanted that channel in particular to do the commentary for Ark Nova, because they had such an in-depth understanding of the game and statistical breakdown of the game. But when looking at the statistics, the card that is upgraded the least of any card is the sponsors card. Usually you'll upgrade your building card and your cards card and your animals card, and then it's a toss-up between association and sponsors, and association will win out 70 to 30% of the time. But the winner, the Ark Nova world champion, loves to upgrade their sponsors card. They do. That's the strategy that works for them. Maybe they know something everybody else doesn't. But that idea that there are so many paths to victory in this game, if you see an unconventional strategy, this game is still fairly new. It's been played by a lot of people, but it is still fairly new. You might have some strategy tips that feel completely unorthodox, can feel completely non-meta, but that might work effectively for you. And I think that's what makes this game really exciting, is that sometimes unconventional strategies can work. He won by only building 2 sponsor cards, I think, in that game as well, even though he normally likes to upgrade the sponsors card. And so that was off of his meta. It's all about playing the board, playing the cards that you're dealt, and working your way through whatever map that you're given. So those are some tips on how you can win Ark Nova. If you happen to be, if you happen to enter the World Series of Board Gaming and you win another competition, and then you find yourself thrown into a game of Ark Nova, you can focus on these things and definitely check out those other statistical breakdowns over at No Wonders. I cannot recommend them more highly. It's lovely to look in depth at the statistics, the actual statistics of what people choose and how these things break down. Why do people always choose the Asia partner zoo? And how those things sort of synergize together. Now, if you are preparing for WSBG, there's a few little things that you should know about the tournament itself, and that is that all players at the table will play with the same map. In order to make it equal and equitable for everybody, we have players play with the same map against each other, and that's important to know. For any of these sort of attacking cards as well, we use the more friendly variant on that. And finally, the final scoring card, Biodiverse Zoo, is removed from the game. Just little tweaks. And of course, if there are going to be any more little tweaks moving into 2024, you can always stay tuned to our newsletter for all of that information. If you wanted the links to anything as well, we're going to be putting the links to all of the commentary in our newsletter. So if you want to be notified right as they drop, make sure you sign up for that as well. That's all I've got for you today on how to win the World Series of Board Gaming, taking home $25,000 and the title of World's Best Board Gamer. while you're having a friggin' fun week with you and your friends. I don't know. I'm obviously very passionate about the event. I like working for them, but don't take my word for it. Ask anybody who has attended the event, and they'll tell you that it's a blast. So get your tickets now. Use the code EARLYBIRD. Please use the code EARLYBIRD. I want you to save that money. Use it before December 31st. Get a chance to win your entire ticket comped. At least get $100 off and secure your spot, and more importantly, securing your hotel rooms, because the hotel block is liable to go quickly. It ended up selling out last year. We've got more rooms this year, but still better safe than sorry. And I'll also tell you, for those who are still on the fence about purchasing now, you got a good chance. People wait. People wait to purchase to make sure that they have the time off. When you can just purchase now, lock in your spot, and get a really good chance at getting your entire ticket comped. I hope that happens to you. I'll be back next Wednesday with how to win a choir. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Chris George, and as we say in the World Series of Board Gaming, what are you waiting for? Get in the game.